from the Carrier Dome in Syracuse, New York, it's the main event. A scheduled 15-round fight for the WBC Welterweight Championship of the World between WBC Welterweight title holder Sugar Ray Leonard and the number 6-ranked WBC contender Larry Bonds. Ringside here at the Carrier Dome, I'm Barry Tompkins along with Marvin Hagler. Larry Merchant, our expert commentator, also on hand, of course. Just about set to get started with all the pre-fight festivities. Larry Bonds and Sugar Ray Leonard. I think it's interesting, and you've talked time and again, Marvin, about how you had to struggle for fights. Everybody wanted to avoid you. You know, the biggest purse that Larry Bonds has ever had coming into this fight was $2,000. So he has really had to struggle quite a lot.
He's got to be very hungry, and I'm going to tell you something. He's got to go out there for this fight with everything he's got because there's no tomorrow.
He has said that in order to win this fight, in addition to the fact that he feels, and it's interesting that you don't really feel that way, that he's got to go 15 rounds, he said he's going to have to change his look on 3 or 4 different occasions, that you just can't do anything the same round in and round out with a guy like Sugar Ray Leonard.
No, Leonard is very well schooled, and he's very crafty, and he'll look for things like that if he see any changes up.
One of the things you talked about, the fact that we've talked time and again, in fact, about the fact how tough it was for you to get fights. And as we mentioned, Larry Bonds has been plagued with the same kind of problem. Bob Lewis is his trainer, and he has always had to kind of be a second banana. First it was to Ron Lyle. Now it's the guy named Michael Dokes who's an up-and-comer. And that's been one of the things that he's really complained about. He said Lewis is going to have to start doing something, that he's kind of kowtowing to some of the promoters in saying, we don't want to fight your guy because he might beat us. So I think you went through the same things. You can empathize with Larry Bonds.
It took me a long time, really, in order to get out there for a championship. Nobody wanted to fight, none of the top 10 contenders. So I believe that fights like this here, if he wins tonight, everybody's going to want to fight him. Whether you're right-handed, southpaw, or whatever, they're all going to want to fight him tonight.
Sugar Ray Leonard has said time and again that it's a lot easier to fight as the champion of the world than it is to fight as the challenger. And that, again, is something that Marvin Hagler can relate to.
Well, I tell you, I believe that my second title defense, which comes up in June against Vito Antuofermo, I do feel a little bit more relaxed. But still, you work harder as a champion.
Talk to me about training a little bit. Is it an easy thing to talk yourself into the fact that you're doing everything for a fight like the Larry Bonds fight as you did for a fight like the Roberto Duran fight, or in your case, the Alan Minter fight as opposed to the Obo Mahias fight?
Every fight you have to take as though it's a championship fight. That is the way that I train. That's the way I've always trained, and that's the way I'm going to continue to train.
What do you do in this case if you're Sugar Ray Leonard? People say you got to carry the guy for a little bit of time. Obviously, everybody looks at this fight and says this is just a tune-up fight because everybody knows that Sugar Ray Leonard's next opponent is a left-hander, even though Ayub Kalule is a very different-looking left-hander than is Larry Bonds. He's more of an upright fighter, and he's got a bigger punch than Larry Bonds. What do you do if you're Sugar Ray Leonard? Just go out there and try to get him, try to confuse him right at the beginning and just not let him get away with anything?
I think he almost has to do what Duran did, and that's put the pressure on him right from the beginning. And he's got a great following here tonight in the Dome, and you can see how all the people are very enthusiastic about him being here. And I think you're going to see a good fight because when the crowd's behind him, he seems to razzle him, get him really going, and I think the crowd helps him to motivate, gets him motivated, and his speed just comes right out.
He really does. In fact, the guy is really a salesman. He put 25,000 bodies into the Carrier Dome here in Syracuse, did so all by his lonesome, I think, because I don't think it was Larry Bonds that really brought him. All of a sudden, Sugar Ray Leonard is the people's choice, and I tell you, everywhere he goes, the man commands a crowd. People's champion. Ray Charles Leonard is the most celebrated fighter in the world today. Yet there was a time when people doubted his progression from Olympic hero to welterweight champion.
In the early stages of my career, I was criticized quite often because people felt that I was being moved along too quickly. They didn't understand the pace, which at the present time is quite evident that the pace was successful.
July 18th, 1978. That was HBO's first look at Sugar Ray Leonard as he disposed of a gutsy Dick Eklund. His flamboyant style packed houses and silenced a lot of the critics. He was much more than an up-and-coming welterweight. Ray's quick feet and his gift as an entertainer in the mold of Muhammad Ali made him boxing's richest contender in history, thanks in large part to his lawyer, Mike Traynor, who wisely set up Ray Leonard Incorporated.
I didn't know how well he could box, frankly. I mean, I watched him in the Olympics, but I had no idea what the competition was. And that was Jenks Morton's department, not mine. And I can remember asking him, you know, we've got everything all set up. Can he box? And he said, don't worry about his boxing. You set up the business part of it. Everything else will fall into place.
One by one, opponents like Johnny Gant, crosstown rival, fell to their accustomed place on the deck.
The early stages of my career against Prado and Johnny Gant was very, very critical because these guys, they considered in boxing terms as a sleeper, guys that were able to knock off a top prospect. And I was the top prospect. I was the future champion.
Finally, on November 30th, 1979, Ray knocked out Wilfredo Benitez to capture the title.
I think that fight, along with the first Duran fight, I lost perspective. I got caught up in all the promotional hype, the gimmicks, and what have you. What you saw with myself and Benitez was not really Sugar Ray Leonard because I was too tight. I felt that I trained a little too hard. I did not reserve enough strength because if so, I would have knocked him out sooner.
Then the media hype began for the brawl in Montreal with ominous Roberto Duran.
You know, people talk about how scary his eyes are. His eyes don't do any punching, and he got to realize that also.
But Sugar Ray lost that historic face-to-face encounter with Duran, and the media questioned why Ray stood toe-to-toe.
People that come to me with talk that I didn't fight my fight, I should have did this, I should have did that. But I tell them, you get in the ring with Duran. You fight him your way and see whether or not you're successful.
That first fight, Ray, I thought, completely dominated the fight because he was really hurting Duran to the body. And I think it showed up well in the second fight.
Then on November 25th, 1980, Sugar Ray humiliated the Macho Man. Duran's cries of "No mas" haunt Ray to this day.
See, the press, public, everyone wanted to say Duran was ill or Duran had a legitimate reason. Duran had no legitimate reason. Duran just quit because he didn't want me to knock him out. I hold no respect for him as far as a man is concerned. I respect him as a fighter. Don't get me wrong. I respect him as a fighter and as his accomplishments, his credentials. But as a man, I don't. I can't. How can I?
Sugar Ray Leonard, the charismatic 24-year-old WBC welterweight champion, who has become America's newest hero. If you think all the publicity has gone to his head, forget it.
He doesn't act. Ray's Ray. And what you see, is because he's so consistent, that's Ray Leonard.
I don't want to be the guy. I don't want anyone to say, okay, well, Sugar Ray Leonard is the greatest fighter of all time because there's going to be someone else they're going to say is greater than you, greater than me. It makes no difference. As long as they say, well, the guy was okay.
So go to Merchant. Well, Larry Merchant is a guy who has been around Sugar Ray Leonard going all the way back to the 1966 Olympic Games. In fact, even a little bit before that, right through the time now when he is the welterweight champion of the world for the second time. And Larry has some comments on the champion. Larry?
In his two fights with Roberto Duran last year, Sugar Ray Leonard grossed nearly $18 million. He made about $1.5 billion more than the Ford Motor Company. So why is he fighting Larry Bonds? And who is Larry Bonds? For Leonard, this is the first part of a three-fight strategy. The next fight scheduled for June is supposed to be against Ayub Kalouli, the junior middleweight champion. And after that, later in the year, a big one against a dangerous opponent. Either Hearns, the WBA champion, Cuevas, the former WBA champion, or our color man tonight, Marvin Hagler. For the opponent tonight, for the challenger, Larry Bonds, this is like hitting the jackpot or the lottery. He's getting $100,000, more than all of his other fights combined. His normal job right now, his everyday job, is as a $20,000 a year garbage collector in Denver. What kind of a fighter is he? A stick-and-run artist, a clever fighter that nobody wants to fight or see. He's ranked 6th in the world, although he's only fought once in the last 20 months. Ours is not to reason why, just to wonder why. He's been asked about the pressure. Pressure, he says, pressure is working in the alleys of Denver with people looking down from windows wondering what you're going to do with their garbage cans.
8 hours a day, Larry Bonds is a sanitary serviceman, which is his own nicer way of saying a garbage collector. But first and foremost, he is a professional prize fighter.
I think what some of these guys are waiting on. They want to try to catch me out of shape. They want to catch me not in the gym. Maybe they want to wait until I be an old man or hurt my back throwing trash or something like that, and then they'll reach out and grab me and think they're going to get a name for themselves, but that's not going to happen.
Larry Bonds is a confident southpaw who honestly believes that he can take Sugar Ray Leonard.
I do everything different than normal people do, I guess. I use left hand a lot more than people, in the boxing game. Everything is always turned around.
I hate fighting southpaws, left-handers, because they create a problem, the unorthodox, and especially with Larry Bonds' height and reach advantage, it's going to take a little time to figure him out, unless he wants to be nice and cooperate.
Well, the chances are Larry Bonds will not comply with Sugar Ray's wishes. This night is too special. He is about to fight for the welterweight championship.
This is the opportunity of a lifetime for me. He shows me that he is a worthy champion. He's a great fighter, and in order to beat the champion, you're going to have to do it with style. I won't throw no more trash. No more. My trash days will be over if I get the title.
Well, Larry Bonds' big moment is just about to get underway here. He is working his way down into the ring in just a couple of moments, has just left his dressing room scant moments ago. He did make one comment that I thought was kind of interesting, though. He said, I do plan to still work for the city when I get finished with all of this. And we said, well, what if you win? And he said, well, I'll work as mayor. We got plenty of boxing upcoming here on Home Box Office Saturday, April the 11th. And is this a good fight? The World Heavyweight Championship. Larry Holmes and Trevor Berbick. Larry Merchant and I will be ringside for that one, along with the man you're about to see, Sugar Ray Leonard. So live coverage of the Larry Holmes title fight, his 9th defense. And he goes against the Canadian champion, Trevor Berbick. That's live from Caesars Palace in Las Vegas. It all starts at 10 o'clock, 9 Central. April 11th should be a good fight.
Well, the last time we had Larry Holmes here on HBO, he fought an opponent, and everybody said, who's he? And who's he turned out to be Mike Weaver, and it was a war. Weaver is now the other heavyweight champion, of course. Trevor Berbick is the Canadian heavyweight champion. He's lost one in about 21 fights.
Well, I think that this fight here with Larry Holmes is going to be a good fight, because this Canadian champion, I seen him fight, and I tell you, he's got more muscles than anybody I ever know. I think Holmes can't be too easy with this guy, and Larry Holmes wants to, I think, defend his title, and also he's talking about retiring.
All right, you say you're not satisfied. You say you want more for your money. Well, I'll tell you what I'm going to do. Monday, May 11th, right here on HBO, more heavyweight boxing. I tell you, we got boxing every month here. Back come June, we got another fight with the man on my right, Marvin Hagler. Jerry Cooney and Ken Norton, Larry Merchant, and Sugar Ray Leonard, and myself will be on hand for that one, too.
I think that's going to be a great fight between Jerry Cooney and Kid Norton. Kid Norton's a sucker for a left hook, and this Jerry Cooney's got one, boy. He's got a big left hook.
Cooney, an up-and-coming fighter, of course. He, too, is undefeated. He is 24-0, undefeated WBC and WBA #1 ranked contender. Norton, of course, the former heavyweight champion. Meanwhile, we are here for the welterweight championship. And on his way into the ring now is Larry Bonds. Crowd starts to react to Bonds. Bonds made an interesting point. He said that he's more popular in Syracuse right now than he ever was in Denver. He actually only had a couple of fights in Denver. In fact, there's an interesting point to be made about Larry Bonds. He was on the undercard of the Muhammad Ali-Lyle Alzado fight.
I want to make one point here as we scan the crowd. Sugar Ray Leonard has brought this crowd out, and the management of Sugar Ray Leonard is very mindful that this makes a persuasive point for his future negotiations against Tommy Hearns and others, that he's the guy that can put people in their seats. There's something like 20,000 people here in the Carrier Dome. That's a tribute to Leonard, who is everybody's hometown hero all throughout the country.
Sugar Ray Leonard, unquestionably the biggest draw in boxing now. As you look at Larry Bonds, very serious on the shoulders of his handlers. There is his record, 29 wins in 32 fights. Has had only 9 knockouts, but as we mentioned, he is not even really thinking knockout in this fight.
The one thing what I like to mention, though, is that about Larry Bonds, is that he has been 12 rounds 4 times. So that could be a great factor in this fight. He can to go the distance a little bit.
Steve Cameron, a very capable columnist from the Denver Post, had said in a conversation that he had with Larry Bonds that he asked him if he thought he could go 15 rounds, and he said to Steve, "You'll know exactly the same time as I know."
He's also a realist. I guess when you're a garbage collector, you have to be a realist. Not to say that this is trash sport. But what I do want to say is that Bonds has said, well, if you lose to Sugar Ray Leonard, there's a big market for fighters who lose to Sugar Ray Leonard.
Well, there's all the up end and none of the down end. As you look at Larry Bonds' most recent fights, Babe McCarthy, he was a winner in 12 rounds. These are not exactly household names, the people that he has fought. Jimmy Jackson, he won in 10. And the immortal Costello King, he knocked him out in 7 rounds in San Juan, Puerto Rico. That was also an undercard. As you hear the crowd start to build now for the arrival of Sugar Ray Leonard. And there you see Sugar Ray's handlers just kind of cheering on the crowd here as he makes his way into the ring.
He has a big entourage with him, don't he?
He does.
They make sure that he's protected.
The record of Sugar Ray Leonard, 28 wins. Of course, the 1 loss to Roberto Duran. 19 of those wins coming by route of the knockout. And Sugar Ray Leonard has come into the ring. The crowd comes alive. On the back of his robe, it says, "I love Syracuse." So this city and the welterweight champion have a love affair. Leonard has been very serious about this fight. There has been no apparent dogging it in training. He's been here in Syracuse since the middle of March. Larry Bonds didn't come in until the 20th of March.
Another point about Ray, you know, they've been trying to build up Ray and saying that he's getting bigger and he might have to become a middleweight and so forth and so on. But when he got on the scales today, he was just a little over 145 pounds. Basically, he is a natural and pure welterweight.
You can see the standoff right here. Sugar Ray Leonard and Larry Bonds, and I would say Larry Bonds is at least going to get a draw here.
Yeah, they're almost mirror images of each other. They're both 5'10", both about the same weight. One's a left-hander, one's a right-hander.
Well, it should be an interesting fight. We're just about set to go with the welterweight championship now.
Well, right away now, I just see, Barry, that he tried to come in and put the scare right into him. We have to find out and see if that took effect on him in the first round, huh?
Larry Bonds has said he won't be bothered by all of that. He fully expected it. He expected the dancing. He expected the mugging. He expected Ray to talk to him. He said, that's not going to bother me at all. I'm not a kid anymore. Now all he has to do is fight.
Well, he's 29 years old right now. He's got to think about that.
You know, he's an interesting and very sympathetic character. We don't know if he can fight, certainly in this class. He has a full-time job. His wife has a full-time job with a telephone company. They have 3 children, 8, 9, and 10 years old, with their own home. It's not the story of a guy that they're picking up out of the gutter. He's a solid citizen in Denver.
He really is. The guy really seems to have his head about him. And now we're going to see what the test is all about in the ring. Let's go up to the ring announcer, Dick Tobin, for the introduction to the fighters.
Did you want me to move up there now?
All right, here we go. Ladies and gentlemen, here's a few fighters representing Syracuse here from Geneva, New York, a young junior middleweight that has 23 consecutive wins. Ladies and gentlemen, Rocky Fratto. Here's a young fellow you all know, ladies and gentlemen. A very good light heavyweight a few years back. From Syracuse, New York, Hal T&T Carroll. Here's another veteran you all remember. A welterweight from down around Ithaca, Dickie DeVeronica. Here is the former welterweight champion of the world from Canastota, New York, Billy Backus. is the undisputed middleweight champion of the world, Marvin Hagler. Here's the old veteran, ladies and gentlemen, from Canastota, New York, the former welterweight and middleweight champion of the world, ladies and gentlemen, Carmen Basilio.
Take a look at the tail of the tape now. Leonard, of course, 5 years the junior of Bonds. Very comparable, though, almost all the way down otherwise. Leonard coming in just 3/4 of a pound heavier than Bonds. 2-inch reach advantage for Bonds. Everything else very, very comparable. Now, whether or not they're comparable in the ring remains to be seen. Sugar Ray Leonard, of course, the champion. Larry Bonds, very much the underdog challenger. Starts to come alive now, and for the introduction to the fighters, let's go up to Dick Tobin.
Ladies and gentlemen, this World's Boxing Welterweight Championship is being presented for your pleasure by the Top Rank Incorporated, with promoter Bill Hanbury representing the Chamber of Commerce of the great city of Syracuse, New York. This bout is being sanctioned and supervised by the New York State Athletic Commission, the Honorable John M. Prenderville, the chairman. Also sanctioned by the Commissioner Fred Shook from the WBC. And the officials that have been assigned here tonight by the New York State Athletic Commission are judges Carol Castellano, Vinnie Rayon, and Harold Lederman. The attending physicians at ringside tonight is Dr. Armand Sankata and Dr. John Marola. And the referee for this bout is Arthur Morcanti. This is the main final bout of the evening. It's for 15 rounds for the World's Boxing Council Welterweight Championship. Coming here tonight from Denver, Colorado. He's wearing the red trunks with white stripes. He weighs 144 3/4. Larry Bonds. Larry Bonds. Now his opponent from Mitchellville, Maryland, wearing the white trunks with red stripes and weighing 145.5. He's the WBC welterweight champion of the world. Ladies and gentlemen, Sugar Ray Leonard.
You can feel electricity.
You really can. It's that way at every championship fight. This one is no exception. You have to look at the odds and say they're long for Larry Bonds, but nonetheless, there is that electricity.
Sugar and Larry. This contest for the welterweight championship of the world will be governed by the rules of the World Boxing Council. In the event of a knockdown, you must take an 8 count. The 3 knockdown rule has been waived. You will be penalized for any illegal blows. When I say break, break. Shake hands now, return to your corners to await the starting bell. Good luck.
Well, you saw the stairs. All the gamesmanship is over. All there is now is just to get to it, and that's exactly what we're about to do. Welterweight championship of the world. We're at the Carrier Dome in Syracuse, New York. Some 20,000 people on hand for this one. Round 1, scheduled 15-rounder. Crowd comes alive right at the get-go. Bonds comes out, circles. Larry Bonds, remember, has fought only 7 rounds in 11 months. Had a knockout the last time out over Costello King. First punch of the fight, sticking jab by Bonds. Bonds has said he's got to change strategies time and again in this fight. Can't show any kind of consistency against the likes of Sugar Ray Leonard.
It's interesting that the role for Leonard is exactly reversed as in the Durand fights. He's now the chaser instead of the chasee.
Well, you know, you're right there. I think this is the fill-out round here. You know, they're both trying to see what shots they can get in there. And I think that he wants to move right now and try to draw Leonard to do what he don't want to do.
Early in the first round here, first right hand thrown by Leonard, whistles by the nose of Larry Bonds. Bonds dancing in his own corner now, up on his toes. Larry Bonds has gone 12 rounds on 2 different occasions. So going a distance is not totally unusual to him. It's just the fact that he has not had a lot of activity in the last year.
Well, the way that he's built, by slim that he is, he should have great hand speed.
He's the kind of guy that when he fights well, makes his opponent look bad. Right hand to the top of the head of Sugar Ray Leonard, little damage. Coming up on the 2-minute mark, round 1, welterweight championship of the world. Sugar Ray Leonard on the left, that is Larry Bonds, the challenger, and a long shot challenger in the red trunks.
Main thing what I see right here, Barry, is that Bonds has to be careful when he's dancing around there, because he's lifting his head up. He's bringing his head up out of that pocket there.
Something to watch for. Right hand scores by Leonard. Larry Bonds also keeping that right arm down pretty well and making himself a target to the left-hand jabs of Sugar Ray Leonard. Coming up on the 15-second mark in round 1.
Well, I think Leonard's doing a great job right now behind the fact that he's cutting the ring off. Moving side to side on him. And he's, like you say, he's the aggressor in this fight.
Larry Bonds still continues to circle now. Backpedal a little bit. We come to the end of round 1. Bonds looks Sugar Ray Leonard all the way back to his corner. But Leonard, as you mentioned, was the aggressor in round 1.
It's easy to see off this first round why fighters avoid Larry Bonds. He's quick and he's careful.
Round number 2 coming up.
Let's listen to Angelo Dundee and Sugar Ray Leonard.
Pick up the pace, Ray, that's all.
Very simple instructions from Angie Dundee.
He was just sort of measuring the timing and geometry between them in that round, and he'd just say, okay, let's squeeze the vise a little tighter now.
You all night long, you know.
Well, one thing you would know, Leonard has to...
There we see Larry Bonds receiving his instructions. And of course, the longer he goes with the champion, the more valuable a commodity he becomes for his future.
Can't emphasize enough, the biggest purse that Larry Bonds has had coming into this fight was $2,000. That was in his last fight, last April against Costello King. In this fight, he will make $100,000. And if he shows well against the champion, I would think more fights will follow. Leonard now pressing the attack against Larry Bonds.
Well, what you heard in the corner from Andrew Dundee told Leonard to pick the pace up.
Leonard, the master, right hand to the chest of Larry Bonds. And first time Bonds tries to force the action a little bit. Comes up pretty much empty. Left hand to the face does score, and Leonard comes back at him, ties him up. And Leonard draws a warning from Arthur Mercanti for holding and hitting.
Well, Leonard's got to have a little nerve in him, you know, because I tell you, it only takes a second out there. He shouldn't be too careful. I mean, you know, he's a little bit too relaxed.
Well, that, of course, is the danger that everyone that has had anything to do with this fight has talked about. that it's very easy to overlook someone like Larry Bonds. You can tell yourself time and time again that you're not going to do it. Then when it gets down to it, you do it.
Well, you know he's very confident, you know, and you can see that. He's